The morning sun shone brightly over London as Mike Thompson and his biker friends roared through the streets on their motorcycles. Mike was a big man with a thick beard and arms covered in tattoos. At 32 years old, he always wanted to be the leader of his group. He needed his friends to think he was tough and cool. "Let's take the rich people route today," Mike shouted to his 5 friends as they stopped at a red light. The others nodded and revved their engines. Mike liked riding through fancy areas of London because it made him feel powerful when rich people looked at him with fear or anger. The group of bikers turned onto Bond Street, where expensive shops lined both sides of the road. People in nice clothes walked in and out of stores carrying bags with fancy logos. Mike smiled behind his helmet as he saw some people grab their children's hands tighter when they heard the bikes coming. "Look at these snobs," Mike thought as he slowed down a bit. "They think they're better than us." He was always angry at people who had more money than him. In his mind, they all looked down on him, even though most people just wanted to go about their day in peace. As the bikers moved slowly through a crowded section, Mike spotted something that caught his eye. A small French bulldog with gray and white fur was walking on the sidewalk. The dog had a shiny collar and was on a leash. Mike couldn't see who was holding the leash because the person was partly hidden behind a group of tourists. A bad idea popped into Mike's head. He wanted to impress his friends with something shocking. Without thinking about it too much, he swerved his bike closer to the edge of the road. "Hey, watch this," he called to his friends, though his words were mostly lost in the noise of the engines. As Mike got close to the sidewalk, he stuck out his heavy boot and aimed a kick at the small dog. He didn't kick hard enough to really hurt the animal, but it was enough to make the dog yelp loudly and jump back in fear. The sound of the dog's cry cut through the street noise. "Got you, rich boy's dog." Mike laughed as he sped up again to join his friends. He could hear some of them laughing too, which made him feel proud of his joke. "Did you see that?" he called to Darren, his closest friend in the group. "That little fancy dog nearly jumped out of its skin." Darren gave a thumbs up and laughed along, but 2 other riders in their group shook their heads. They didn't think scaring a dog was funny, but they didn't say anything to Mike. Nobody ever challenged Mike when he did mean things. What Mike didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that the man holding the dog's leash wasn't just any rich Londoner. The man had been looking in a shop window when Mike kicked his dog, but now he turned around with a face full of anger. The tourists moved aside, and Mike would have been shocked if he had looked back. The dog owner was Jason Statham, the famous action movie star known for playing tough, dangerous characters who didn't let anyone get away with crossing them. And unlike the violent but fictional characters he played in movies, the real Jason Statham was even more protective of those he loved, especially his rescue dog, Bruno. Statham bent down to check on his frightened pet, gently petting Bruno to calm him. The dog was shaking but seemed unhurt. As Statham comforted the animal, his eyes locked onto Mike's motorcycle as it disappeared down the street. He noticed the license plate number and committed it to memory. "It's okay, boy," Statham said to his dog in a quiet voice that didn't match the cold anger in his eyes. "We'll find that man. Nobody hurts you," and just walks away. A woman who had seen what happened came over. "Are you okay? Should we call the police?" Jason Statham shook his head. "No need," he said as he took out his phone. "I have my own ways of handling this." Jason Statham walked his dog Bruno back to his apartment, his mind still racing with anger. He lived in a nice building with big windows and a doorman who tipped his hat as Jason entered. Inside his apartment, Jason got Bruno fresh water and gave him a treat to help him feel better. "Don't worry, boy. We'll find that biker," Jason said as he rubbed Bruno's ears. The dog was still a bit jumpy after what happened. Jason sat down at his kitchen table and made a phone call. "Dave, it's me. I need a favor," he said to his friend who worked as a private investigator. "Some biker kicked Bruno today. I have his license plate number. Can you find out who he is?" Jason gave the license plate number to Dave and hung up. Bruno came over and put his head on Jason's lap. The movie star looked down at his pet and felt his anger grow again. Bruno had been through so much before Jason adopted him. The dog had been saved from a man who kept him in a small cage and never let him out. It had taken months for Bruno to trust people again. "Nobody hurts you," Jason promised his dog. Meanwhile, Mike and his biker friends had stopped at a roadside diner. They sat at a table near the window, their leather jackets squeaking against the plastic seats. "That was so funny when you kicked that dog," said Darren between bites of his burger. "Did you see how it jumped?" Mike laughed and took a big drink of his soda. "Yeah, those rich people need to learn they don't own the streets." But not all of Mike's friends were laughing. Tom, the oldest member of their group, shook his head. "That wasn't cool, Mike. It's just a dog. It didn't do anything to you." Mike's face got red. He didn't like being challenged. "It was just a joke, Tom. Don't be so serious." "Whatever," Tom said, looking down at his food. "I don't think animal cruelty is funny." The word cruelty made Mike feel uncomfortable. He didn't think of himself as cruel. He just liked having fun and showing off. But deep down, he knew Tom was right. He pushed the feeling away and changed the subject. "Let's ride to the pub tonight. First round is on me," Mike said loudly. This made everyone happy again, and they talked about their plans for the evening. Back at his apartment, Jason's phone rang. It was Dave the investigator. "I found your biker," Dave said. "His name is Mike Thompson. He works as a mechanic at a garage in East London. He has a record. Nothing major, just some bar fights and disturbing the peace. He rides with a small gang called the Road Demons." "Do you know where I can find him?" Jason asked. "He hangs out at a pub called the Black Bull almost every night. It's on Brick Lane." Jason thanked Dave and hung up. He looked at the clock. It was nearly 6 p.m. He had an idea but needed help. He called two of his friends who were also in town filming the same movie. Both were martial arts experts who had trained with Jason for years. "Hey, it's Jason. Are you free tonight? I need some backup." He explained the situation to them. Both agreed to meet him at his apartment at 8 p.m. After feeding Bruno dinner, Jason changed into simple clothes: jeans, a dark t-shirt, and a jacket. He didn't want to be recognized right away. His friends arrived right on time, looking similar in casual clothes. "Thanks for coming," Jason said as they came in. "I don't want to hurt this guy. I just want to scare him a little and teach him a lesson." "What's the plan?" asked his friend Wei, a famous martial artist from Hong Kong. "We're going to visit the Black Bull pub and have a little chat with Mr. Thompson," Jason explained. "If he's not there tonight, we'll come back tomorrow. I'm not letting this go." The three men left the apartment, leaving Bruno with Jason's housekeeper who had come to dog sit. As they got into Jason's black Range Rover, he felt calm. He wasn't going to do anything stupid. He just wanted Mike Thompson to understand that actions have consequences. The Black Bull pub was busy that night. The air was thick with cigarette smoke and the smell of beer. Rock music played loudly from old speakers in the corners. Mike and his biker friends sat at their usual table near the back, drinking and laughing. Mike was telling the story of kicking the dog for the third time, making it sound more impressive with each telling. The dog must have jumped 3 feet in the air, Mike said, raising his arms to show how high. His friends laughed, except for Tom, who just drank his beer quietly. The door to the pub opened, and 3 men walked in. The pub got a little quieter as some people recognized Jason Statham. He was well known in London, especially in places like this where people loved action movies. The bartender's eyes went wide, but Jason gave him a small shake of the head, asking without words for the man to act normal. Jason and his 2 friends walked to the bar and ordered drinks. They stood with their backs to the counter, looking around the room. It didn't take long for Jason to spot Mike. The biker was the loudest person in the place, and he was now acting out his kick with his foot in the air. "That's him," Jason said quietly to his friends. The one with the red bandana around his neck. They waited, sipping their drinks. Jason wanted to hear what Mike was saying, to make sure this was definitely the man who had kicked Bruno. At Mike's table, one of his friends had noticed the new arrivals. He poked Mike's arm hard. "Hey, isn't that Jason Statham at the bar?" he asked, his voice suddenly nervous. Mike turned to look. "Yeah, I think it is. So what? He's just a guy who pretends to be tough in movies. I heard he's actually really good at fighting," another friend said. "He does most of his own stunts." Mike snorted. "Who cares? He's not going to bother us." But Mike was wrong. Jason put down his drink and began walking toward their table. His two friends followed close behind. The pub got even quieter as people realized something interesting was about to happen. Mike was in the middle of a sentence when Jason reached their table. He stopped talking when a shadow fell across him. Looking up, Mike's mouth dropped open as he recognized Jason Statham standing over him. "You're Mike Thompson?" Jason asked, his voice calm and quiet. Mike swallowed hard. "Yeah, that's me. What's it to you?" Jason pulled out an empty chair and sat down at their table. His two friends remained standing, their arms crossed over their chests. They looked tough and serious. "Today, around noon, you were riding your motorcycle down Bond Street," Jason said. It wasn't a question. Mike's face lost some of its color. He suddenly realized who Jason was. The man with the dog he had kicked. His friends at the table looked confused, not understanding what was happening. "Look, man," Mike started to say, trying to sound brave. "I don't know what you're talking about." Jason's face didn't change. "3 security cameras on Bond Streets say otherwise. I have you on video kicking my dog for no reason, other than to make your friends laugh." The pub was now completely silent. Everyone was watching and listening. Mike's friends looked at him with surprise, and in some cases, shame. "It was just a joke," Mike said, his voice smaller now. "I didn't hurt it. His name is Bruno," Jason said, still calm. "And he's a rescue dog who was abused for 2 years before I adopted him. He's finally starting to trust people again." Mike didn't know what to say. He looked around at his friends for support, but they all looked away, not wanting to be part of this. "I'm not here to hurt you," Jason continued. "I could, but that's not the point of this." "What do you want?" Mike asked, now sounding worried. Jason leaned forward. "I want you to understand something about consequences, about being a man who takes responsibility for his actions." Mike felt trapped. The tough image he had built was crumbling in front of everyone at the pub. People were watching him shrink in his seat as Jason Statham, a real tough guy, not a fake one like Mike, calmly told him off. "So here's what's going to happen next," Jason said, his eyes never leaving Mike's face. Jason took out his phone and showed Mike a video. On the screen, Mike could clearly see himself riding by and kicking Bruno. The security camera had caught everything. "I could take this to the police," Jason said. "Animal cruelty is a serious crime in the UK. You could get 6 months in jail and a fine of up to £20,000. Mike's face turned pale. He hadn't thought about his joke being illegal. He looked at his friends, but they were all looking down at the table or at their phones. No one wanted to be part of this anymore. "I didn't mean to really hurt the dog," Mike said, his voice shaking a little. "I was just showing off." "Being a man isn't about showing off by hurting those weaker than you," Jason replied. His voice was still calm, but his eyes were hard. "It's about protecting them." The pub was still quiet. Everyone was watching. Some people had their phones out, probably recording this moment. Mike knew he would be all over social media by morning. His reputation was being destroyed right in front of his eyes. "What do you want from me?" Mike asked, trying to sound tough but failing. Jason put his phone away. "I want you to learn something from this. I'm giving you a choice." Mike waited, feeling sweat on his forehead. Option 1. I take this video to the police tonight, and you deal with the legal consequences. Mike swallowed hard. He couldn't afford a fine, and he definitely didn't want to go to jail. Option 2, Jason continued. You spend the next 3 months volunteering at the East London Animal Shelter every weekend. 8 hours each Saturday and Sunday. You learn what it means to care for animals that have been hurt by people like you. Mike was surprised. This wasn't what he expected. You want me to work at a dog shelter? Yes. And if you miss even one day, the video goes to the police, Jason said. I'll be checking with the shelter manager every week. Mike thought about it. 6 months in jail, and a huge fine, or 3 months of cleaning dog cages and walking rescue dogs. It wasn't really a choice. Fine. I'll work at the shelter, Mike said. Good choice, Jason replied. You start this Saturday at 8 a.m. Ask for Linda. She'll be expecting you. One of Mike's friends finally spoke up. How do you know they'll take him as a volunteer? Jason smiled slightly. I donate to the shelter. I've already spoken to Linda. She's not happy about having someone like Mike there, but she agreed to give him a chance. Mike felt angry and embarrassed. He wasn't used to being told what to do. And what if I don't show up? He asked, trying one last time to look brave. Jason's 2 friends, who had been quiet until now, moved a step closer to the table. They didn't say anything, but their presence was threatening enough. Then my friends here will find you, and we'll all take a trip to the police station together, Jason said. And trust me, the video will be the least of your problems. Mike believed him. He nodded slowly. I'll be there. Jason stood up. Good. Now, I think you owe everyone here something. Mike looked confused. What? An apology. For being the kind of person who thinks hurting animals is funny. The whole pub was watching. Mike's face burned with shame. This famous movie star was making him look like a fool in front of everyone. I'm sorry, Mike mumbled. Louder, Jason said, so everyone can hear you. Mike cleared his throat. I'm sorry for kicking the dog. It was wrong. Jason nodded. See you at the shelter on Saturday. Don't be late. With that, Jason and his friends turned and walked out of the pub. As soon as the door closed behind them, the room erupted with noise. Everyone was talking about what they had just seen. Mike sat there, feeling smaller than he ever had in his life. Darren, who had been laughing at Mike's dog-kicking story earlier, moved away from him. Man, you're on your own with this one. I don't want any part of it. For the first time, Mike wondered if maybe he was the bad guy in this story. Saturday morning came too quickly for Mike. He woke up at 6:30 a.m. feeling angry and tired. He almost decided not to go to the animal shelter, but then he remembered Jason Statham's threat. The video would go to the police, and Mike would be in real trouble. With a heavy sigh, he got out of bed. After a quick shower and breakfast, Mike put on his usual clothes, jeans, boots, and his leather jacket with his biker gang's logo on the back. He looked at himself in the mirror and frowned. Maybe the leather jacket wasn't the best choice for working with scared animals. He took it off and put on a plain sweatshirt instead. Mike rode his motorcycle to the East London Animal Shelter, arriving at 7:55 a.m. The building was old but clean, with a fenced area on the side where he could see some dogs playing. A sign on the door said, "Open at 10 a.m., but Mike knocked anyway. A middle-aged woman with short gray hair opened the door. She looked Mike up and down with a frown on her face. "You must be Mike," she said, not smiling. "I'm Linda. Jason called and told me to expect you." Mike nodded, feeling uncomfortable. "Yeah, that's me." Linda stepped aside to let him in. "Let me be clear about something right away. I'm only letting you volunteer here because Jason is our biggest donor. If it were up to me, I wouldn't let someone who kicks dogs anywhere near our animals." Mike looked at the floor, his face red. "Look, I made a mistake, okay? I'm here, aren't I?" Linda didn't seem impressed. "You're here because you're afraid of going to jail, not because you care about animals. But maybe that will change." Come with me." She led Mike through the shelter. Dogs barked from kennels on both sides of a long hallway. Some looked excited to see people, while others moved to the back of their cages, looking scared. "Many of these dogs have been hurt by humans," Linda explained. "They don't trust people anymore. Our job is to show them that not all humans are cruel." Mike felt a sting of guilt at her words. He was one of those cruel humans. "Today, you'll be cleaning kennels," Linda said, stopping at a supply closet. She handed Mike rubber gloves, a bucket, a mop, and cleaning supplies. "Start at the end of the hall and work your way back. Take each dog out to the exercise yard before you clean their kennel. There are leashes hanging by each door." Mike looked at the supplies in his hands. "That's it? No instructions on how to handle the dogs?" Linda raised an eyebrow. "You've shown you don't know how to handle dogs properly. I'm not letting you interact much with them until you prove you can be trusted. Just clean the kennels for now." Mike wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. He nodded and walked to the end of the hall. The first dog was a small terrier mix who barked nonstop as Mike approached. He looked at the leash hanging by the door and felt nervous. How was he supposed to get this angry little dog out of the cage? "Need help?" a voice asked. Mike turned to see a young woman with curly hair watching him. "Yeah," Mike admitted. "I've never really had dogs. I don't know how to get him out without him biting me." The young woman smiled. "I'm Alicia, one of the regular volunteers. That's Max. He's all bark, no bite. Watch me." Alicia showed Mike how to approach Max calmly, how to put the leash on without scaring him, and how to lead him to the yard. Mike watched carefully, realizing there was a lot more to handling dogs than he thought. After Max was safely in the yard, Mike started cleaning his kennel. The work was dirty and smelly. By the third kennel, Mike's back hurt, and his hands were sore despite the gloves. He had never worked this hard before. During his lunch break, Mike sat alone outside, watching the dogs in the yard. Alicia came and sat next to him. "So, you're Jason Statham's project, huh?" she asked. News traveled fast at the shelter. Mike frowned. "I guess you could say that." "He told Linda what you did," Alicia said. "Why would you kick a dog you don't even know?" Mike didn't have a good answer. "I was showing off to my friends. It was stupid." Alicia nodded. "Very stupid, but you're here now. That's something." Mike returned to the shelter the next day with sore muscles and a bad mood. His phone had been buzzing all night with messages from his biker friends. Someone had posted a video of his run-in with Jason Statham at the pub. Now everyone was laughing at him, not with him. "The mighty Mike, cleaning dog poop for Jason Statham." One message read. Mike had turned off his phone after reading that one. Linda greeted him with the same cold look as yesterday. "You're on kennel duty again," she said, handing him the cleaning supplies. Mike took them without arguing and got to work. The dogs were still nervous around him, but he was learning how to move more slowly, to speak in a softer voice. By lunchtime, he had cleaned 10 kennels. As he sat eating his sandwich in the break room, Linda came in with a large German Shepherd mix. The dog looked thin and scared, pressing against Linda's leg as they walked. "This is a new arrival," Linda told Mike. "He was found tied to a fence behind a closed factory. No food, no water." Mike looked at the dog. Its ribs showed through its dirty fur, and one ear was torn. "People are awful," Mike said without thinking. Linda raised an eyebrow. "Yes, they can be. This one needs special care. He's too scared to be in the regular kennels with all the barking." She led the dog to a small room off the main hallway. There was a dog bed, water bowl, and some toys inside. The German Shepherd went straight to the corner and lay down, watching them with nervous eyes. "What's his name?" Mike asked. "He doesn't have one yet," Linda replied. "We just call him New Boy for now." After lunch, Mike went back to cleaning kennels. He worked hard, trying not to think about his friends laughing at him. As he worked, he kept looking at the room where New Boy was staying. The dog hadn't moved from his corner. At the end of the day, Linda checked Mike's work and nodded. "Not bad," she said, which felt like high praise coming from her. "See you next weekend." But before Mike could leave, Alicia ran in from the yard. "Linda, we need help. The Wilson family is here to adopt, and they want to see 3 dogs at once. Can someone show them Daisy while I take out Buddy and Rex?" Linda looked around. All the other volunteers were busy. With a sigh, she turned to Mike. "Do you think you can take Daisy out to the yard for the family to meet? She's in Kennel 8. She's very friendly, so you shouldn't have any trouble." Mike was surprised. "You trust me to do that?" "Not really," Linda said honestly. "But we're short-handed, and it's just walking her to the yard. Think you can handle it without kicking her?" Mike felt his face get hot with shame. "I can handle it." Kennel 8 held a medium-sized brown dog with floppy ears and a wagging tail. Daisy jumped up excitedly when Mike approached. "Hey there," Mike said softly, remembering how Alicia had shown him to put on a leash. Daisy stood still, her tail wagging harder as he clipped the leash to her collar. "Good girl." Mike led Daisy to the yard, where a family with 2 young children waited. The kids rushed forward excitedly. "Wait," Mike said, surprising himself. "Let her come to you. Don't crowd her." The parents looked impressed as they held their children back. Mike let Daisy approach the family at her own pace. Soon, she was happily licking the children's hands and rolling over for belly rubs. "She's great with kids," Mike told the family, "and she walks really well on a leash." He wasn't sure why he was trying to help Daisy get adopted, but it felt important somehow. After the family left, promising to think about Daisy, Mike walked back past the room where New Boy was staying. The German Shepherd was still in his corner, watching the door. Mike stopped and looked at him for a long moment. "I know what it's like to be afraid," Mike said quietly through the door. "People can be scary." He didn't expect the dog to respond, but New Boy's ears perked up slightly at the sound of his voice. As Mike rode home that evening, he felt different. The shame and anger were still there, but something else was growing too. A small feeling that maybe, just maybe, he could do something good for these dogs. A month passed, and Mike kept his promise to Jason Statham. Every weekend, he went to the animal shelter and worked hard. The first few weekends were just cleaning kennels and filling water bowls. But by the 4th weekend, Linda started to let him walk some of the friendlier dogs. "You're getting better at this," Linda told him one Saturday as she watched him calmly lead a big lab mix back to its kennel. Mike just nodded, but inside he felt proud. Getting approval from Linda was not easy. Mike's phone had stopped buzzing with messages from his biker friends. They had moved on to laughing at someone else, and Mike found he didn't really care. He hadn't gone riding with them in weeks. Working at the shelter was tiring, and he had started using his free evenings to read books about dog training that Alicia had given him. One Wednesday night, Mike's phone rang. It was Linda, which was strange because she never called him outside of shelter hours. "Mike, I need a favor," she said, her voice tense. "We just got a call about a dog fighting ring that was busted by police. They're bringing in 6 dogs that need immediate care. All our regular staff are either sick or out of town. Can you come in?" Mike was surprised. "You want my help? With fighting dogs?" "You're not my first choice," Linda said honestly, "but you've been learning fast, and we're desperate. These dogs need help tonight." Mike thought about it for only a second. "I'll be there in 20 minutes." When Mike arrived at the shelter, it was chaos. Police officers were bringing in dogs that looked terrible. They had cuts all over their bodies, and some were very thin. Mike felt sick looking at them. "These people made them fight each other," a police officer explained. "They bet money on which dog would win." Mike felt a deep anger growing inside him. How could anyone be so cruel to animals? Then he remembered how he had kicked Bruno just for a laugh. He hadn't been much better, had he? Linda was moving quickly between kennels, checking each dog. She saw Mike and waved him over. "Help me clean these wounds," she said, handing him some supplies. "Remember what I showed you about approaching scared dogs? These ones have extra reason to be afraid of humans." Mike worked for hours, helping Linda and the vet who had come in. He held dogs still while the vet gave them medicine. He cleaned wounds and filled bowls with food and water. By 3 a.m., all the fighting dogs were settled in clean kennels with medicine for their pain. As Mike was getting ready to leave, Linda stopped him by the door. "You did good work tonight," she said. "Really good work. Maybe Jason Statham knew what he was doing when he sent you here." Mike felt a strange warm feeling in his chest. It was pride, but not the kind he used to feel when his biker friends laughed at his mean jokes. This was different. "Thanks for calling me," he said to Linda. "I'm glad I could help." When Mike got home, he was too tired to do anything but fall into bed. But before he fell asleep, he checked his phone and saw a text from an unknown number. "I hear you helped with the fighting dogs tonight. Good job. J.S." Mike stared at the message. Jason Statham was checking up on him. Linda must have told him about tonight. Mike wasn't sure how to feel about that. The next morning, Mike went to the shelter even though it wasn't the weekend. He wanted to check on the fighting dogs. Linda looked surprised to see him. "I thought you'd sleep in after last night," she said. Mike shrugged. "I wanted to make sure they were okay." Linda studied his face, then nodded. "Since you're here, there's someone I want you to work with." She led Mike to the room where New Boy, the German Shepherd, had been staying. The dog was still nervous around most people, but he seemed less scared than before. "He needs to learn to trust humans again," Linda said. "I think you might be the right person to help with that." "Me?" Mike was shocked. "Why me?" Linda gave him a small smile. "Because you're both learning to be better." Over the next several weeks, Mike spent every free moment with the German Shepherd. Linda had suggested that Mike give the dog a name, since New Boy wasn't much of a name at all. After thinking about it for a day, Mike decided to call him Rocky. "Because you're a fighter," he told the dog. "You've been through tough times, but you're still here." At first, Rocky would only watch Mike from the corner of his room. He would eat food that Mike left, but only after Mike stepped away. Progress was slow, but Mike was patient in a way he had never been before. Mike read books about helping traumatized dogs. He learned to sit quietly in Rocky's room, just reading a book or looking at his phone, letting the dog get used to his presence. After a week of this, Rocky started to lie down closer to where Mike sat. "Good boy," Mike would say softly. "You're doing great." By the 6th week of working with Rocky, the dog would take treats directly from Mike's hand. The first time it happened, Mike felt so happy he almost cried. He looked up to see Linda watching through the window with a smile on her face. "I knew you were the right person for him," she said when Mike came out of the room. "You two understand each other." Mike thought about this as he rode his motorcycle home that night. Did he and Rocky understand each other? The dog had been hurt by humans and had trouble trusting them. Mike had never been hurt like that, had he? But then he thought about his childhood. His father had been a mean drunk who yelled a lot. Mike had learned to act tough to avoid being picked on at school. Maybe he did understand something about fear and putting up walls to protect yourself. The next day was Saturday, which marked exactly 2 months since Mike had started at the shelter. His community service punishment from Jason Statham was almost over. He only had 1 more month to go. The thought made Mike feel strange. He had started to enjoy his time at the shelter. When Mike arrived that morning, Linda called him into her office. She looked serious. "I got a call from Jason Statham," she said. "He wanted to know how you've been doing." Mike felt nervous. "What did you tell him?" "The truth," Linda said, "that you've become one of our best volunteers, that you've shown real skill with traumatized dogs, that you've changed." Mike didn't know what to say. Had he changed? He thought about how he used to be, laughing as he kicked a small dog just to show off to his friends. That person seemed like a stranger to him now. "Jason is coming by today," Linda continued. He wants to see for himself. Mike's stomach felt tight. Is he bringing Bruno? The dog he had kicked seemed so long ago now. Yes, Linda said. He wants to see how you interact with Rocky, and he wants you to meet Bruno properly. Mike nodded. He had been wondering when this day would come. His time at the shelter had started as a punishment, but somewhere along the way, it had become important to him. He wanted Jason to see that he wasn't the same person who had kicked Bruno that day. When Jason Statham arrived at the shelter that afternoon, he was alone. He had left Bruno in his car. I wanted to talk to you first, Jason explained. Linda tells me you've been doing good work here. Mike shrugged, feeling uncomfortable with the praise. I like the dogs. They're honest. They don't pretend to be something they're not. Jason studied Mike's face. Linda says you've been working with a German Shepherd, a tough case. Rocky, Mike said, feeling proud despite himself. He's getting better. He took a treat from my hand last week. Show me, Jason said. Mike led Jason to Rocky's room. The dog was lying on his bed, but stood up when Mike entered. Hey, buddy, Mike said softly. He sat down on the floor, not looking directly at Rocky. After a moment, Rocky walked over and sniffed Mike's hand. Jason watched from the doorway, his face showing surprise. He trusts you, he said. Mike gently petted Rocky's head. We're learning to trust each other. After watching Mike with Rocky for a while, Jason nodded and stepped back. I think it's time for you to meet Bruno properly, he said. Are you ready for that? Mike felt nervous, but nodded. Yes, I'd like to apologize to him too, not just you. Jason seemed pleased with this answer. Wait here. A few minutes later, Jason returned with Bruno on a leash. The French bulldog looked healthy and happy, nothing like the scared dog from that day on the street. Bruno sniffed the air curiously as he entered the shelter. Bruno, sit, Jason said gently, and the dog obeyed immediately. This is Mike. He's a friend now. Mike knelt down slowly, remembering everything he had learned about approaching dogs. He held out his hand palm down for Bruno to sniff, not making direct eye contact. Hey, Bruno, Mike said softly. I'm really sorry about what happened before. I was a different person then. Bruno sniffed Mike's hand cautiously, then, to everyone's surprise, gave it a small lick. Mike looked up at Jason with wonder in his eyes. Dogs are good judges of character, Jason said. He can tell you've changed. Linda, who had been watching from nearby, stepped forward. Mike's 3-month commitment is almost over, she said to Jason, but I'm hoping he'll stay on as a regular volunteer. Jason raised an eyebrow and looked at Mike. Will you? Mike nodded without hesitation. Yes, I want to keep working with Rocky, and I want to learn more about helping dogs. Good, Jason said, because I have a proposition for you. He explained that he was starting a program to help both troubled dogs and troubled teens. The idea was to bring teens who were in danger of going down the wrong path to work with rescue dogs. I think you'd be perfect to help run it, Jason told Mike. You understand both sides. You know what it's like to make bad choices, and you know how to help dogs learn to trust again. Mike was shocked. You want me to work for you? After what I did? Sometimes the people who've made the biggest mistakes have the most to teach others, Jason said. And you've proved that people can change. Mike thought about it. The idea of helping kids who were like him, angry and trying to look tough, really appealed to him. And he could keep working with the dogs he had grown to care about. I'd like that, Mike said. Thank you. There's one more thing, Jason added. Rocky needs a permanent home. Linda and I think he should go with you. Mike looked at Linda in surprise. She nodded with a smile. He trusts you more than anyone else, and I think you need each other. That evening, Mike brought Rocky home to his small apartment. The dog was nervous at first, sniffing every corner carefully. But by bedtime, Rocky had settled on a dog bed next to Mike's couch, looking more relaxed than Mike had ever seen him. Mike sat down on the floor next to Rocky and gently petted him. We're going to be okay, buddy, he said. We both got a second chance. 6 months later, Mike stood in a large field watching as a group of teenagers worked with rescue dogs. Each teen had been paired with a dog that needed special care and training. Mike walked among them, offering advice and encouragement. Jason Statham stood at the edge of the field with Bruno at his feet. He watched as Mike knelt down to help a young girl who was having trouble getting her dog to focus. "See how she's feeling nervous," Mike told the girl. "The dog can sense that. Take a deep breath and believe in yourself. Show her that she can trust you." The girl followed Mike's advice, and soon her dog was responding to her commands. The smile on the girl's face reminded Jason of why he had started this program. Rocky trotted beside Mike as he moved to the next teen who needed help. The German Shepherd was now a certified therapy dog, helping to teach other dogs and teens how to overcome their fears. What had started as a cruel joke had led to something Mike never could have imagined: a life with purpose, helping others heal from their own painful pasts. As he looked across the field at Jason, Mike gave a small nod of thanks. The action star nodded back, a gesture that said everything that needed to be said between them.